Alright, I'd like to welcome you guys to this week's report. Fishing's been pretty good in a lot of areas this week, despite some not so great weather. And bad news is we got more not so great weather in the horizon here. So step away here and we're going to take a look at the windy map. I'm doing a little different view this time. I'm actually going to go by regions. As you can see, I'm clicking on a spot up there above Santa Rosa Island. And as you can see at the bottom, all that orange and red means it's really blown out through the weekend. Not looking too hot at all. Same holds true for the front side of Santa Cruz Island. It's going to be windy. You can probably find some spots on the backside you send to fish. But Nick is completely blown out, unfishable. West end of Clemente is real windy too, but that's usually the windest part of the island, so I don't think it'll be as bad down on the east end, or maybe the front side should be fishable for sport boats. I wouldn't run over there in a skiff. Heading over to Cat. Looks a little bit better, but it's still pretty windy on the backside Saturday and Sunday. You can probably fish the front, but going into the beach, it's much more fishable weather. A little bit of southeast wind, but nothing to really speak of. And down at the tuna grounds, it should be fine for sport boats down there, but it's not going to be real skiff friendly looking around. Especially you're not going to see a lot of surface activity with the amount of wind that's going to be down there. It's blowing in the teens all day Saturday, Sunday, and into Monday. So I'd find something else to do. As you can see, things don't look great in a lot of areas, but weather is improving in most areas by early next week, and hopefully we'll continue to do so throughout the week, and by next weekend should be better. But if you're looking to get out this weekend, I would just keep an eye on the weather. It may not be as bad as forecast in some areas, or it may end up being worse than forecast in others, but it's just something we're having to deal with this year. I don't know if we're having this persistent Catalina eddy coming through and this wind on the outside, but it's just a different year. Let's head up to the Channel Islands. Fishing's a little slower up there this week, but there are still sea bass and halibut being caught by guys fishing up there. It's kind of hit and miss depending on weather and the areas where the fish are. Sometimes it's too windy to go where they're biting. But if that weather stabilizes, again, all this wind we've had up there hasn't shut that bite down, so I don't think it's going to. And if we get a few days of good weather, we might get a little winter to get up there and get in on it. I know the boats that have been making a crossing have been saying it's kind of rough, but they're getting over there and getting to leave the island and catch some fish. As you can see from the forecast, Nick and the rest of those areas will be completely blown out this weekend. Not even worth covering. San Clemente Island is going to be windy, not too windy for sport boats. Maybe, I don't know. It's going to be a touch and go kind of thing. If I was a skiff, I wouldn't go out there this weekend at all. But the boats are still seeing a few yellows and relying mostly on reds. Thunderbird was out the other day, said 58-degree water and a 9 to 10 foot swell, which 2 knots of current running into it, which made for pretty unpleasant conditions, but they still caught some fish. I went to Clemente on Thursday last week. I was there to Cat. It was nice. We decided to go further. Had some really good calico bass fishing, pretty wide open. Caught a yellow, saw a bunch more. And even looked down below the island a few miles and saw some real good water down to Clemente Ridge and found a couple some yellows on it, but they wouldn't bite. But with the weather this weekend, I won't be heading back down there. But at the end of this video, I'm going to show some insight on how we fish calicos and kelp. Catalina, not much is happening. The boat's still getting some sea bass over there. The charter guys that know how to fish for them are getting them. Sport boats getting the occasional yellow, bass, bonita, stuff like that, rockfish, kind of the same deal. On a brighter note along the coast, finally have some good to report. More boats are actually fishing for service fish lately. I saw the Redondo Special had some nice calico bass up in Santa Monica Bay. Boats out of Dana are catching sand bass. I saw even one of the boats out of Santa Barbara fished the coast and had some nice calicos and sand bass the other day. So that's a good sign of things to come here. Hopefully the water continues to warm up and we see some more anchovies in the bait, which will definitely make for better bass fishing. Not a whole lot to report from the Coronado Islands. I really haven't heard about anybody fishing down there since last weekend. Might still be fish biting there, I'm not sure. Most of the guys are out fishing those tuna, and the good news is the tuna are biting, and there are a lot of big ones. You know, boats are having a lot of 100-pound plus fish. I think the San Diego had like 19 fish between 100 and 200 pounds the other day on a full day trip. I've got some video here from a few different boats loading up Pacific Star and Liberty, and you can watch that video now. Anyways, we have some wind down there that's not really going to affect the sport boats this weekend, but it's not going to be great for private boaters. south wind, southwest, southeast wind. It's just garbage. Makes for nausea out there and makes it tough to spot any surface activity because you're probably gonna have a lot of overcast. It's gonna be choppy, but I guess some of the boats are reporting seeing some breezes of fish. So, you know, you might get lucky, go down there and find someone willing to bite a popper or a stick bait or a Rapala subwalk, something like that. Or you might have to go and drop on meter marks like the fleet's doing. The good news is it seems to be working well. Guys are getting them on knife jigs. And pretty consistent fishing down there. I'm sure Tony will have plenty more on the San Diego scene in her report. So I'm going to cut out this video here talking a little bit of calico bass technique and strategy and how to fish them at islands, or same applies along the beach. So why don't you go ahead and watch that now. Okay, this video is from last week's Clemente trip here. We're on the east end of the island. We fished all the way at the pyramid and we fished all the way up to China Point, and we're back around Pyramid now. Slow fishing in the morning, no current, things just going in different directions, fish here, fish there. We got a little bit of wind and current later in the morning, and then the sun came out a little bit, and as you know, once the current started running, things started to orient. Once the sun got out, the fish moved up in the column, bit the wheelers more readily. As you can see here, I've got map position on the outside edge of this kelp bed. The kelp is running parallel to the island, same direction the wind's going. So I've got him sitting outside of it, so he's fishing the outside edge of this bed here, making short casts, hitting pockets, things like that. Caught a lot more big fish up the island further earlier, but all the fish here we're seeing are small ones, so that's actually not even trying to swing on these fish as he's getting bites from them, the small guys, but he hooks one. But as you can see, I'm kicking the boat out to stay on the outside edge of this kelp. If you get in the middle of that, you're really getting out of the bite zone. Those fish can be hanging on that outside edge every single time. Leading edge and outside edge. And so if it looks like he's fishing out to sea, that's just me using the outboard to kick the bow out and put him in a better position for casting. And one of the questions I get is how much do we move the boat? As you can see, I'm moving the boat quite a bit. That's one of those inadvertent bites he didn't want. But once you make a single cast in the spot, you don't need to make another cast in there. So it's, you know, if the wind's blowing like it is here, you can make long drifts. If the wind's not blowing, you might need to use your main motor or your trolling motor to just bump you along and keep you in prime position. The trouble with the trolling motor in this situation is that the guy in the bow isn't able to fish freely if he's constantly reaching down to adjust the trolling motor. It's almost a constant adjustment. So while Matt's doing this, I'm just basically fishing from the console. And then when I get the boat set up in a good position where I can make a good straight drift for a while, I'll come up to the bow and share that with him. But I know there's not a lot of exciting things happening here, but I just want to give you like a real-time shot of what we're doing while we're out there. And a lot of it is just moving the boat, making casts to isolated stringers or to places where we think there should be a fish that will bite. And 9 times out of 10, you're not going to catch anything, but that 10% of the time, you're going to get a bite. Some, 10% of that, you might get a nice one. So Matt's just throwing a 7-inch MC weedless on a 3/4 ounce Trocar hook, 7-foot RCLB or Judge Series RCLB 70L 7-foot graphic composite casting rod with a 300 pen fathom, low profile, full of 65-pound braid. And this gives you kind of a better view of what we're doing here. You can see that I'm on the outside edge of the kelp. The kelp is running parallel to the island, so he is fishing the outside row of stringers and also casting into the main spots here. And as you can see, we got this heavier kelp here, this mat. I won't waste my time casting on that. I have those fish from the isolated stringers. So you can see I'm just driving Matt past this right now. There's a ton of current on the outside. It's actually making the kelp stalks on the outside boil, but once you get inside and it gets matted up like that, the fish aren't going to be in there biting. They're going to be in there relaxing and resting in between feeding things. So chance of getting bitten in that heavy mat are pretty thin. Yeah, we were coming into another productive looking zone here, and as you can see, the kelp gets sparse again, and that's really what you want to look for. These bass are not going to be sitting in heavy kelp. They're going to be sitting in these isolated stringers where they can post up and have a 360-degree view of anything that's happening. And I'm actually coming up and sharing the bow with Matt now because it looks so fishy up there. And from what I've seen, this looks like the best stretch of water. As a result, I do catch a nice fish here. But my first cast, I think I have or maybe the second cast, I have a couple bites to come, but they're short bite to bait. They're not choking it down. There you go. See, Miss that, and so you know there's aggressive fish here. You get a couple fish following you, they'll bite. I think on this cast, the next one I actually get bit properly, and the fish actually chokes the bait like it's supposed to. But that's basically it. You get an area where you get a couple of short bites, and miss another one there. And he gets these fish fired up. If they're schooled up, you miss the first one, you might have 2 or 3 fish behind it. So make a cast right back to where you just got that bite, and bring that bait through again, maybe a little quicker to get them to commit to it, or maybe slow it down, different things, different times, maybe a slightly different angle. And there I got them to get it right. So these fish have no problem choking on that 7-inch weedless if they're fired up like these things were. But this is pretty much our whole day was like this at San Clemente Island. And if you ever go fish bass there, just look for that moving water, look for a little bit of sun, and you'll find some nice bass to catch and have a good time. But don't sit in the middle of the bed, because you're going to end up not doing a whole lot. So there you go. That's about it.
That was cool.
That's about wrap it up for this week. I really hope that we can string together a few weeks of good weather without all this wind. And if you're heading out, be careful. Check the weather reports before you go. And if it's worse than you expect when you get out, keep in mind that it probably won't get any better. And good luck if you're fishing this weekend.